Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. I also live stream all of my builds and repairs for transparency and for educational purposes. So if you would like to have an awesome new PC and you'd like to see it get put together live, send me a message today. Alrighty, so the main event tonight is we're going to be building Jesse's PC with the ASUS TUF Gaming RTX 3080. So one of the most highly desirable 3080 graphics cards right now, one of the ones that everyone wants to get their hands on. Very hard to come across these cards. I get a hold of maybe a couple a week if I'm absolutely lucky. That's the maximum I'd be able to get a hold of. I gotta drive all around the place to find these things.
Yeah, you have to go to the Boulevard.
But yeah,
Sunshine Coast.
yeah. So that was a long drive. So, you know, that's part of what comes into play for actually getting these cards, because they're out there in dribs and drabs basically. So yeah, you can't find them. You can't find them everywhere. They're out of stock. If you go to somewhere like Umart, you won't even see them listed because they're just constantly out of stock. I think sometimes they get cards, but they're like listed and they just go as soon as they're listed. People are just sitting there like hitting refresh, I think. So anyway, let's get started and we'll go through all these components that we're using today. So basically, I'll start with what's in my hand here now. So we've got a Corsair H100i RGB Platinum. So this is a higher performance AIO. It's got a good like block on top of the CPU there that has really good thermal conductivity. That's why it's got the Platinum brand essentially. So it's a little bit higher up than your average Corsair coolers, because really, I mean, it's kind of apples to oranges comparison when you compare different brands at different prices and stuff. But when you've got a company like Corsair that makes a whole heap of different products, it's kind of easy to differentiate the ones that are higher performance from the others. So you can look up all the cooler benchmarks and stuff online and see how they're all rated and stuff. So I picked this one up for $189 on special. So quite a good buy here. So Jesse's got a good deal on a decent cooler.
Another addition to our
Potentially, yeah. And so for our motherboard here, we've gone with the H470 Pro AX from ASUS. So the H470, as I said in another video, this is the chipset that you want if you want all the premium features of a high-end motherboard, but you don't want to overclock it or do any of that kind of stuff. You just want all the good features on the motherboard and all that, and that's what you get from the H470 chipset. So it'll be a bit cheaper than the Z490 chipset. That's the same, like basically a carbon copy of the board. That will be about $80 more. But with a board like this, you're just saving a little bit of money. And if you don't want to overclock it, you just want to run it at stock, this is going to be quite fine for you. So we'll have a look at this motherboard in a bit more detail when we unbox it. I'm just going to put it down here for now. We'll get our graphics card out of the way because this is the last thing that we're going to be installing. So over here we've got our CPU. This is the Marvel Avengers edition Intel Core i9 10850K. So this is a 10 core 20 thread CPU.
I kind of like the box actually. Like I don't like Avengers and superheroes.
It's a cool box.
It's a cool
box. Yeah. It was, yeah, just marketing basically. And so if you're wondering, okay, so what's a 10850K? Isn't it 10900K? So a 10850K is essentially exactly the same as a 10900K. It's just clocked a little bit lower, and it's been binned as such that it's a lower performing K SKU for the Core i9 10th Gen series. And so what that means is they don't make different types of i9s and stuff like that. They make ones with onboard graphics and ones that don't have onboard graphics, and they make as many of them as they can, and then they test them, and they don't all come out the same. Some of them are better, some of them can be like run at higher clock frequencies and stuff like that than others. Others don't perform as well, and so that's called, the concept's called silicon lottery, because each chip has the potential of being really, really good or being kind of mediocre. And that's where you get the different model numbers in CPUs. So in Intel, the K series is the top chip. And the fact that this is an 850, not a 900, shows that this particular SKU is the lower performing K series. It's still a K series. It's still better than just like a 10900 or something like that. But it's just not clocked quite as high as a 10900 is, and that's because it didn't have as good thermal performance at those high frequencies. And the reason why I've gone with it today is because we're pairing it with the H470 motherboard here. We're not going to be doing any overclocking anyway. We do want to be running a K series SKU, because K isn't just about overclocking. K is the top performance CPU. They're clocked higher. They have better performance straight out of the box than a non-K. So it's not just about overclocking with these. It's actually a better performing chip. So even if you don't want to overclock, you still want to buy the K series CPU. And don't let anyone tell you that it's just K just means you can overclock it. That's a drastic oversimplification. And so we've got crucial 1 gigabyte P1 SSD. So these are quite fast SSDs, especially compared to your old type of SSDs like this one here. This is the sort of more familiar type of SSD, but these NVMe SSDs run at about 4 or 5 times the speed of these, some even faster. And you can get them in up to 8 terabytes capacity, and we'll have a look at one of them a bit closer when we prep our motherboard. So for our power supply here, we've gone with a Thermaltake 750 watt power supply here, so it's going to be more than capable of powering this non-overclocked system here. So some might go, oh, why didn't you got 850 with a 3080 and blah 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 blah. But you got to remember that Jesse's not looking to overclock any of this. He's just bought a 3080 and an i9, because that's going to give him the best gaming performance for his dollars. He doesn't want to tinker with it. He just wants a powerful gaming machine. So he's just going to be running everything at stock. So this 750 watt power supply is going to be all the power that he needs, and it's actually saved him over $50 compared to getting an 850 watt power supply. So it's a good value proposition. It's 80 plus bronze rather rated, so it's still decent efficiency, decent quality. This power supply is going to last the life of his computer, and he won't have to think about it essentially, unless he starts overclocking, but then he'll change the motherboard and other things. So, you know, it's one of those things. It's every system is put together based on the person and how they're going to use their computer, and we pick all the right parts based on that. We don't just give you whatever parts. You know, whatever your use case is, whatever your budget is, I get you the best parts I can.
That's why Tim always asks questions like, what games are you?
Oh, I'll ask you like 20 questions if you want a computer off me, and for some people it's too much and they just go away. But you know, to do a proper consultation and go through everything, it's probably going to take us like 2-3 hours of correspondence via text. And so over here we've got our RAM, so we've gone with 32 gigabytes of the ASUS CL16 memory here. So this is 3200 megahertz. So this is going to provide plenty of memory for Jesse's needs. He'll be able to do whatever he wants on this computer. Like I said to him, this PC that you're building here, it's not just a gaming PC. This is a powerful workstation as well.
It says nice case. Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is one of the
mine, but
Corsair.
black.
Yeah, it's the Corsair 4000X. So this is a very popular case. I sell a lot of these. I really like this case, and I do suggest it to a lot of people for builds because it seems to be a shape and design that seems to be universally enjoyed.
It's really nice. It's got really nice clean lines. It's just
And it comes with a Corsair
fans.
RGB controller and 3 Corsair RGB fans, and it's $209. So if I was to buy a 3-pack of Corsair fans with a controller, that's like $120 to $150, depending if you've got it on special or not. And so what, $209, I get that all pre-installed? It's pretty good.
Nick says 32 gigabytes for what?
It's just for gaming, but I think Jesse, he does a little bit of CAD work, so it's always good to have a bit of extra memory. Also, if you're doing video or photo editing, it's really important to have a bit more memory. Also for the don't forget the audio engineers out there who are making all the great music that we have these days. These guys, depending on how complicated the music that they make is, they may or may not need a fair bit of RAM. Depends the apps they're running, depends the sort of sounds that they're working with, and how many different sounds they're using in their song, how many different things you have to load up into the system memory. So yeah,
We want that now.
yeah. And James just says it's future proof, and it's exactly right, James. That's the other point with this as well. Games right now, there's only a few games that really utilize more than 16 gigabytes. But what'll happen over time is, as developers realize that more and more people are running 32, they'll start to design games to take advantage of more and more system RAM. And as system RAM gets faster, it will also get used in different ways in games as well. So that will evolve. So it's one of those things. What do we got?
Pax wants to know how much this case is, like $200 or something.
This is a $209 case.
$209.
If you're wondering how much the build is, it's a little over $4,000 for the exact configuration we've got here. So
And Nick says, I want that case but in white. Yes.
you can get it in white. My wife has it in white, and we've just got a Western Digital 2TB hard drive. I feel like we've spent a bit of time just talking here while we're getting to the parts. So I'm gonna push everything to the side. Yeah, I know, it's alright. And we'll have a closer look at this motherboard, and we'll start to prep it. So we got one of these ASUS Go Faster badges, so Jesse can let me know if he wants that. Oh, I just realised I don't think I sent Jesse a message telling him that we've gone live.
Aww.
Let me no. I'm gonna do that right now because this is his build. Like it's good entertainment for everyone, but.
He's here.
Ah, he's here. Okay, cool. No worries. I was like, oh shit, I forgot to tell Jesse we're going live. Anyway, so under here we've got a few accessories that go with the motherboard. We'll go through them in a second. There's just a manual and a warranty commitment card from Gigabyte. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Oh.
Nick just said, just imagine my layout now, my phone in a white case like that.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's It's a beautiful case, Nick, and it's got a heap of room back there for cable management. So if you wanna maximize your RGB over time, you definitely want lots of room at the back there, because as you've probably seen already, just with a case like yours, there ends up being a lot of like little wires running in almost every direction out there when you start getting lots and lots of RGB on there. So having plenty of room to put those cables is definitely an important thing.
I'm looking at adding more strips to my white case now. Just need two more. Just two more.
I'll tell you that what you're doing is you're getting a dopamine hit. That's what this is. You don't actually like the PC, you actually like the dopamine in your brain. That's what shopping is. That's what shopping in like retail therapy is. That's why I call it retail therapy. Like it's not just some like 80s housewife like being pedantic about how she's describing
No,
it has a psychological effect. Yeah. Christmas is another one. Yeah.
Jesse says 4019.
4019. That's right. Yep. We fine-tuned all the components. It was a little bit. I think originally I had a Z490 motherboard for Jesse, and we were like, no, we don't. Jesse doesn't want to overclock or do any of that, so he doesn't need that. So a H470 chipset's going to be quite good for him as well. What's that?
Pax is just saying, oh, I can have your PC and you can have mine just for a day.
No, well, Jesse has been wanting a PC for ages, and he's just been like apprehensive about what to buy and all that. So
I don't blame you.
yeah, it is. It's a minefield out there, eh? And if you don't know, even like people who know a fair bit about PCs, people who work in IT, for example, I still get those people hit me up for a build. And it's not because they don't know how to build a PC. It's because they're like, oh man, I haven't been keeping up on consumer PC components. I don't deal with that in my job, sort of thing. And I can build a PC, but it's just going to take me too long to research it and stuff. So, man, this is what I want to do. This is what I use my PC for. Get me something good. Here's my budget. Make it happen for me. And that's totally legitimate, because to actually go and research all this stuff takes hours. And if you're a busy person with a life, it might just pay me my small fee to do a build is generally money well spent, unless you really like the joys of building computers and working out what's wrong with them when you hook everything up and it doesn't work. So that's basically it. So anyway, we'll get started with this motherboard here. So we've got one of these sneaky little fan headers down here, which is actually really good because we can hook up the back fan that's going on this. And one thing that's not in the build here that I'm throwing in is I'm throwing in another Corsair SP 120mm fan for the back here. It's the same fans that are pre-installed on the front, and it's just going to sit on the back there. And it's just going to mean that between the Corsair fans on our cooler and the Corsair fan here, that all of the RGB lighting for the fans will all be controlled through the Corsair software. So we're not going to have like some fans controlled through this, some fans controlled through that. We're going to have it nice and uniform, all running through the same system in this build. So I'll just leave that up there with the case. So that's one thing, you know, as you've probably seen me in videos, I'll sometimes throw in a fan like that, you know, especially if it's an expensive build and it's like one thing that you don't have. Also, I'll throw in free fans if I do a stress test and things are getting too hot. Yeah, like I'll chuck one in there. I've got a big box of spare ones. You know, like got this spare one tonight from Pax's build. Like there's nowhere else in the case to mount it. So, I mean, I'm happy to post it to him because, like I said, I got a big box of them. But, you know, Pax probably doesn't have any use for this right now. So it'll probably just go in my spare box, and then if I need it for someone else, they'll just get it for free. I didn't pay anything for this. so I'm not going to sell it for anything. Anyway, so we've got a fan header here. We've got our 8-pin CPU power connection here, so that'll power our CPU and all these chips and stuff you see around the CPU, because all this stuff here is intimately related to the CPU. The CPU can't work without any of these things. There is something called an arithmetic logic unit and a maths co-processing unit, for example. So basically, if you don't have the arithmetic logic unit, the CPU's dumb. It doesn't even know how to do maths. So it needs to be told what mathematical logic is by an independent chip. So that's, I'm not going to go in and explain every single thing because everyone's eyes will glaze over and stuff, but that's one of the things these other things do here. There are also these VRMs which control the voltage and stuff that's going into the CPU, and also the other voltage on the motherboard here. So all these components here, especially when we hook up a high-powered CPU, it's good to put it in a motherboard that's got all these heat sinks and stuff over it, because if you put a high-powered CPU in a budget motherboard, all this stuff up here gets quite hot, because, like I said, it's intimately related. If you get the cheap motherboard, doesn't have the heat things, you hit the heat sinks and stuff, you plug a high-powered CPU in it, it's taxing these components like, you know, it's a high-powered CPU. So basically it's important that when you do get something like an i9, that you don't put it in like the cheapest motherboard that you can find. So have you gone out of it?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back.
No, go back down to the post.
That's not the post.
Refresh the page.
That's what I'm doing.
Anyway, we're still live anyway, so, but that's sort of what all this kind of stuff up around the CPU does there. Without going right into it in a heap of detail, that's just some of the things. You can think of it, you can think of all these things here as being related to the CPU and how it functions. So that's what, if you're looking around the motherboard and you're just like, what is all this shit?
Tim?
That's what you can think about that section.
Pax says hence why we came to you.
Thanks, man.
Earlier. Jamie says, yeah, there is so much out there now, it gets a bit much. I love looking through.
It's nerd porn. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you know, I'm a pretty like rational kind of person. Like I don't like to spend more than what I have to. My wife had to convince me to keep a 3080 card that I got. She had to convince me to keep it.
Sorry, what?
You had to convince me to keep the 3080.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I don't need that. I can't rationally justify that.
He deserved it, though. He's been doing so well, and it looks cool in his PC. And
yeah.
To be honest, he deserved it.
Anyway, so we got a couple more fan headers here. So we've got another chassis fan. This grey one here is for the CPU. It's marked like that just so you know which one's the CPU fan. So if you're looking up your fans and trying to control the speed, you know which one is definitely on the CPU.
Jamie says that's a nice looking motherboard.
Yeah,
nice motherboard.
It's a nice motherboard. So this is like if you wanted the look of like a Z490 board, but you didn't want to quite pay the price and you didn't care about overclocking, this is the board for you. So we've got four DIMM slots here for our system memory. Over here we've got two RGB headers. We've got a 12 volt and a 5 volt. This is our motherboard ATX power, so this is what powers the rest of our motherboard here. So that's why it's got significantly more pins than just what powers this top section here. You just think of all the different things that are being powered from there. Remember, our graphics card has another power cable directly from the power supply on the 12 volt rail, which is the same kind of power that's going into this connection here. So basically the graphics card doesn't get enough power through this. What have we got?
Nick says, only reason I'd like a case like that because my case doesn't look as cool with a non-see-through front panel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool, but I mean, you got to be very careful with the tempered glass.
Yeah.
I've had one of these just explode.
Yeah, this like exploded in slow motion in front of me one day.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh.
I'd literally just turned the video off. It would have been live. You would have seen like a random panel explode. It would have been like one of those, because I've looked it up. Tempered glass has a statistically significant failure rate. It's like a very, very, very low percentage failure rate. But it's like it does not have a 100% like this is solid, never gonna break under any circumstance. It can spontaneously break. People's showers can just break for no reason.
Friend, he was asleep, and his shower just exploded. Like the glass door just broke.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like in winter or in the middle of summer or something when like the expansion and contractions at play. It was like in autumn.
Yeah.
So it was like mild temperatures, not as much like up and down. So anyway.
Says, shut up and take it.
That's it.
To the graphics card.
Yep. So we got fan header number 4 here. So it's nice to have lots of different fan headers because you can control them all independently. Down here we've got a USB 3 port here. So this one here will connect to our USB 3 up the front. These are very delicate pins. You got to be pretty careful plugging them in. So these ones here are SATA ports. So that's for connecting the hard drive that we've got there, or those older 2.5-inch SSDs like this. And down the bottom here we've got this one. This is where all our front panel connections plug in. So we've got this little bracket. Undo it and show them up close. So that basically...
Pristine proof.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, jeez.
So that basically... You put all of your little tiny front panel connections into that plastic bracket, and then you just plug it into that slot that's down the bottom of the motherboard there. And so you don't have to worry about putting like individual wires on these little tiny pins, like 2 at a time and 1 at a time. You just plug the whole thing in and it just goes in. And it's really easy to plug them in when you can just do it right in front of your face, not down on the motherboard.
Amazing little bracket.
Yeah, it's really so cool. I love it. I love it because it's just...
I didn't even know such thing existed.
I think I said to Christine ages ago, like I didn't even build a PC for a while, and I was just like, this is one of the this is the thing that I find like one of the most tedious parts of building a PC is plugging in these little cables down the bottom here. I'm like, my hands are like relatively big. They're not like massive, but so I can still do this, but it's kind of hard and kind of awkward to get those really fine ones on. And if you're observant, you might see these 2 little pins that are above it there. That is called the clear CMOS header. So basically that clears the motherboard software that's in the BIOS. So like if you changed some sort of setting in there that you shouldn't have changed and now your computer's not working, that's the hard reset pins. So all you do, you could remove one of the plugs here for like your power switch, and you could put your power switch header on there and you could press the power button. That would also do it. But if you didn't want to change it, you would just get your screwdriver and you just very carefully touch those 2 pins while the computer's on. And if you do it by accident, you might scare yourself because the computer will turn off like instantly, like you've ripped the power cord out of it. And that's normal. That's what will happen when you do a clear CMOS like that, on most motherboards, I should say. And so when you do that, when you turn it back on, the system will boot up, but it will take a little bit longer to turn on, and it will basically act like you've just assembled this computer for the first time. Windows and your operating system and all your drivers, everything else will be installed still, but the motherboard and everything on it, it needs to then recheck what's connected to it and do all those sort of checks. So it's like you've set it back to its default settings. It doesn't even know what parts are connected to it anymore. And that's why it'll take a bit longer to turn on after you do the clear CMOS. So it's nothing to worry about when it does take a bit longer. You just wait for it, and eventually it'll come up with either just the normal BIOS screen, or it'll display a message like system configuration changed, press F1 to continue, press F2 to enter setup. And that's just like that's a default screen that comes up when you change your system configuration, mainly to do with your RAM and your CPU. Graphics cards generally won't trigger that particular warning. Anyway, so we've got fan header number 6 down here. Sorry, number 5 I think it is. Yeah, fan header number 5. This one here is our trusted platform module. So this is like a security module that you would plug in. Consumers don't usually use this. This is more for business people and people who have high security stuff. These two here are USB 2 headers. Then we've got 2 more RGB headers here. And we've got our Thunderbolt connections here. We've got our COM port connection here. So if we wanted to hook up old like printers or serial devices and stuff, we can get a cable that plugs in there. And then we can get a little bracket that fits into one of these. And then it will have one of those like old school, big, long, chunky connections on the back if you have some random device that you need. So, and then finally down the bottom, this bit here, as I say in all my videos, this is the front panel audio connectors for like the microphone and headphone jack on the front.
Tim, Nick says I'm going to try and focus very hard when you get to the USB 2 front panel ports.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so this bottom part of the board here, this, if you sort of know PCs and stuff, you'd remember that we used to have sound cards that we needed. We used to have to plug sound cards into our computers to get audio. Now, we basically have a sound card baked into the motherboard. This whole section of the motherboard down here, this bottom section here, is all about audio.
Even that little bit, the little tiny chip just below that big shroud thingy?
Yes.
Or is that something else?
No, actually no. These two here are connected to another system. I can see from the circuitry. But this one here, all that stuff around it, and this bit here that says amp up audio, obviously that's got something to do with the audio. It's pretty clear, telling you exactly what's going on there. This chip here says ITE, and that's one of the audio chips as well. These little gold, little water tower looking things, these are the audio capacitors. So these are high quality gold audio capacitors here. So we've got some decent audio on this board. So you could kind of think of this as like, this has got like sort of stereo, hi-fi quality audio straight on the motherboard.
Plug your surround sound system into it, I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it has built-in Wi-Fi. I like that.
Yeah, built-in Wi-Fi. No need for a Wi-Fi card on this board, so it's got built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. You don't have to worry about that. And obviously here, like I said, this part of the board down here is all audio. So always, on every motherboard, it's the same design. Every ATX style motherboard, which is every motherboard that you guys are gonna see, unless you look at random server boards and stuff, they all have the audio down here. And on the back here, where these input outputs are, the audio is always down that end. And so, as you can see here, we've got a Sony Philips digital interface here. So that's the optical audio cable that you would like. A lot of sound bars have that, and we'll plug in with that. So you can just plug your sound bar into that. High quality audio straight off the motherboard. No need for a sound card. You only need a sound card if you're a professional, really. There's not really too much use for them these days. They still exist, but they're pretty niche. I don't. It's not something that I put in people's computers. Anyway, so around the back here we've got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. We've got 4 USB 3.2s, including one as a Type-C. We've got 2 display ports here. We've got a HDMI, we've got 2 video outputs, I should say. 1 display port, 1 HDMI. We've got 2 USB 2s and another 2 USB 3.2s. We've also got a PS2 port here for keyboard and mouse, if you have an old school keyboard and mouse that uses that interface. And then the only thing I haven't spoke about on the board is the PCIe interface. So we have a total of 5 PCIe slots, and we've also got 2 M.2 slots here as well. So we've got these 3 X1 slots here, these little ones. And we've got this big one here that's silver, so this is the primary one for our graphics card. It's called an X16 slot, and it's actually connected all the way along. This slot down here, it looks the same length, but I can actually see inside the slot, and I can see it's...
You can see it in the reflection on certain angles.
Can you? Yeah, I don't know if you can...
Tilt it back. Keep going. Yeah. If you're looking really hard, you can see it.
Basically, the pins are only connected to where my finger is. The rest of the socket's just empty. So you could put, if you plugged your graphics card in there, it would only be able to work at like that capacity. So you don't ever put your graphics card in that bottom slot, even though just because it fits there doesn't mean it goes there.
If you have 2 graphics cards.
Well, if you've got 2 graphics cards, then that's where you'd put the second one. But
no
one does that anymore. We don't do that. It's only supported on the 3090. So anyway, so basically these 2 here are M.2 slots are for our SSDs. So anyway, that's a bit of a deep look at the motherboard and all of our components on it. So let's start installing everything and prepping our motherboard. So where is... oh yeah, it's under here. Yep, got everything. So I'll start with our memory here. So yeah, like a lot of people call this stuff RAM, right? But this stuff here that we've got is actually called, they're called DIMMs, dual inline memory modules. RAM is actually the name of the actual memory that's on the stick. So when you hear people say RAM sticks, it's used a lot. Even people who fix computers will just randomly drop that term. But technically speaking, these are referred to as DIMMs, dual inline memory modules. And you'll notice that they've got this little like divide in the middle of them there. Like, you can see really clearly that little groove there. And that's why it's a dual inline memory module.
Why won't it focus?
Hold up closer.
It doesn't want to focus.
But you can even out of focus, you can see the little groove there, and that's basically it. So it's got two modules on the same. Sorry, it's got two like lots on the same stick. So it's kind of like when we install one, it's kind of like we're installing 2. I guess you can think of it like that.
It's like 2 different wavelengths of the same stick.
Yeah, basically. And so because we're installing 4 here, we don't have to worry about which slots we use first or anything. We're just going to go along and we're just going to put 1 in each slot. Nice and easy. You can't mess that up. I say we can't mess that up, but then like I'll go and install this and then we'll have like a badly seated stick, and then I'll have to like go and reseat the RAM and troubleshoot it and all that, and I'll be late and I'll be tired and I'll start getting frustrated and I'll kick it and I'll break the glass and no, I won't do it. I won't do any of that. No, I won't do any of that. No, but that might be a perfect promo for my channel. Me kicking a computer and just going nuts. But it might not be good for my business. It'd be good for the channel, but not for business. Anyway, so
I don't know if I want to get a PC from this.
No.
I don't know if that's good.
No, it's definitely not good. So anyway, let's go to our SSD now. So this is all an SSD is now, just this tiny little stick. Very, very thin. Get them up to 8 terabytes capacity. And these are super fast because they communicate through the same interface as the graphics card. It's called the PCIe bus.
Sean wants to know how long from scratch will it take you to build a PC?
Oh, it depends on the PC, really. So obviously if I'm sort of doing a build like this and I'm like taking my time and talking about what I'm doing and stuff like that, it'll take me a bit longer to build it. And it also takes me longer if I've got lots of RGB and different coolers to install and whatnot.
Between 1 to 3 hours.
Yeah. So depending on how long and how much I talk. Yeah, it depends. It depends. Depends how many questions I get while I'm building it and stuff like that. So, you know, it is what it is.
All our PCs are live stream.
We could do like a race. Like how fast can I build a PC sort of thing. Like we could do that.
I'd actually kind of like to see that.
Well,
completely smash it out.
Yeah, I could do that.
Like just don't talk, just build the PC.
Yeah, like just me completely silent, just putting a PC together really fast.
I kind of want to put some music to it, but YouTube says no to music.
Oh well, there is YouTube music that you can use in your videos.
Yeah, but
that's something I'll explore soon.
Not great, but pretty good.
You could find there's a lot of stuff on there, so you could find something that's good.
Nick says he takes his sweet ass time. Nah. Oh man, he's rushed. He's rushed. No.
I don't think so. No, I know what you're talking about.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
Inside joke. Sean says sweet ass. Tim.
All right.
Tim.
Yeah. But I can, like, if I'm not talking and I'm just putting together like a basic PC for like a security camera system or like a basic office PC for a customer that, you know, they don't need anything high performance, they just want something cheap and that just does the job for them and it's going to be reliable. Something like that, I can build it really, really, really quickly. Like, I could have that built and assembled in probably 20 minutes. So you get this little card.
Nick says, yeah, it's a rush job, Tim.
Yeah, real rush job. So you get this little card here, the Avengers card.
Job. I can confirm it. Tim?
5 hours of rush job. Yeah. No. 5 hours is far too long for a PC build. 5 hours is like
I'm asleep.
I've obviously spoke for too long about the computer if it's gone on for that long, or I've been asked like an absolute shitload of questions. And don't get me wrong, I like answering questions and stuff like that. It's good. Anyway, so this is the delicate part with Intel CPUs and motherboards. Under this is our socket, and this is an LGA 1200 socket. So that means there's 1200 little tiny pins in this socket. On the CPU, there's no pins at all. It's just got these touch pads. So the CPU is pretty sturdy. Not much can go wrong with these. You don't want to touch the touch pads with your fingers and muck them up, but yeah, not much can go wrong with them. But those pins inside that socket are very delicate, and that's why it's covered with this.
You don't want to put your finger in there and like
no.
touch it.
No, you don't even want to. You don't even want to jiggle the CPU around when you've got it in the socket. They're that delicate.
Like,
Yeah.
You can kinda, but not really.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
It's not best practice.
No.
So, basically, when we install our Intel CPUs, there's two little nooks on either side, and you'll see two little nooks on the socket. You just want to line them up. And what I do is I grip the CPU by its edges, by the corners, and then I push my fingers down, lining it up obviously with where it's meant to go. And I get it as close to the socket as I can. It's about, I'm getting it, I'm about a millimeter, about 0.8 of a millimeter. There we go, it just dropped in that last little millimeter of space there. And so that just dropped into the socket there. No need to press down on it or anything. We just lightly just touch the corners to make sure that the corners are all sitting down nice and flush and neat in the socket.
Makes sense. I really wish I kept my 700 KA card.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty cool. I mean, if Jesse likes this stuff, I'll include it. If not, it'll probably just end up in the bin. I don't know. It might be worth something one day.
Put it on the wall.
Anyway, so to mount our CPU, we've got this bracket that goes on top of it. You just put it down, and there's like a little bolt with some clips, and it slides under it. And then you got this bar. So
Jesse says, yeah, throw it in.
Yep.
No worries, dude.
And so this is going to feel a bit sort of rough. There's quite a bit of resistance in that bar.
You feel like you're going to break it.
Yeah,
but
you're not going to break it. And also this plastic cap is going to pop off. You need to keep this. If you don't, if you've no intention of ever sending a motherboard back for a warranty claim or anything like that, you can just chuck it in the bin. Who cares? But if you ever need to send it back for a warranty and you send it back without this, it's just instantly voided. Yeah. You've just voided your warranty. Even if it was completely legitimate and there was like an actual fault, you ship it back without this on it, they just go, yeah, not fault, and just rejected. It's to protect the pins, because like I was saying, the pins in there are really, really delicate. And you can repair bent pins, but it's very hard to repair these Intel pins that are in the socket. It's much easier to repair an AMD CPU that's got a slightly bent pin. Like I did that the other night, just randomly, just came up when I was installing the CPU. I even checked it, but obviously there was just one that wasn't right.
You had to fuck around with
that. Yeah. And then when I was fucking around, I didn't have my fine tweezers, and I was using another tool, and then I bent another one, so then I had to fix two. So that's what can happen. So anyway, we'll move on now. So we've got our M.2 drive installed, we've got our CPU installed, we've got our RAM installed. See, I just called it RAM. But see, now that it's in the slot, no, not RAMs. Now that it's in the slot, you could refer to this as the system RAM. So, see, I got myself off. And not like that.
As soon as you said it.
No, as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Alrighty, so what we'll do now is we'll go and attach this cooler to the board, because it's generally easier to do it like this than the other way around. Sometimes if you're not sure on how you want to orientate it and you want to see how it looks in the case, you can do it like that. It's just a little bit more clunky. I find that I'm slightly quicker at installing them if I do it like this. Oh, yeah, hello to anyone who's watching on YouTube. We've only sort of just started the channel. It's only got a small amount of following. Most of most of our sort of regular viewers and stuff are coming through on the Facebook page. So if we're missing you, we're really sorry. You can feel free to chuck a comment up there, and we'll respond. If you got a question or anything like that?
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Silence.
Crickets. Ah, that's okay.
Alrighty. Let's get these wire ties off there. It's always good to remove these.
Yeah, you don't want to leave them on the computer when the plastic goes all crap.
Yeah, they degrade, like the casing on them degrade over time.
You've got metal around
You,
your cables.
you can find ones that are like actually decent and won't degrade as fast and stuff, but the general rule is just don't do that.
Ties.
Yeah, cable ties are cheap as. Just go to the $2 shop and go up the back. You'll be able to get like a big packet of them for like $2.
Yeah, go to hardware section, cheap shop.
Yeah, hardware section, cheap shop. You don't need to get anything high quality and stuff. Just get a big bag of cheap little ones for $2, and then if one breaks, it's like, oh well, there's like 50 in here. It don't matter. Alrighty. So our cooler is going to be positioned on the top of the case, and so we could either mount it like this, we could mount it like that. So I personally, and Jesse can let me know if he has a preference. I personally don't like it like this because it puts these pipes in the way of the rear exhaust fan, and it also covers the RGB block on the actual CPU here. So I would prefer to orientate it like this, like that. The only thing is that from some angles, these cables might slightly obscure the RGB on the RAM, but I still think that this looks better overall. So, but if it's your rig, I mean, I can hook it up whichever way. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing saying that I have to hook it up a certain direction. Well, there is. You want to have your radiator above your pump, because pumps need to be at the low point, not the high point. If you know anything about pumps and plumbing and stuff, you'd know that. So the reason is because there's a pocket of air in here. It's not all completely full of liquid. It has to have some air in it because it needs to account for the expansion and contraction of the liquid inside the cooler. And so if you have the pump at the top, say if you tried to mount it like this, right? You had it on the bottom of the case. Then the pump would be at the top, and there would be constantly this like slight gurgling sound of like a bubble being caught up in the pump. And it can also damage the pump over time. So it's important to kind of, get that right. What's wrong?
Nothing. I just
Yeah, so like that. Yeah, it probably won't work that way in the real world.
No. Like,
I know what you're trying to do.
The Undy ones, like they're really bendy. The Undy
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Pipes.
And so yeah, with our cooler, we just sort of work out how it's going to be orientated, and then you work.
Whatever's best way you.
I think this way. I think this way is best. I think for a number of different reasons.
Sounds the better, I say.
Yeah, dude. You don't want that. If you see someone who's mounted it around the other way, It's not right. You could mount it like this, right? As long as the top of this radiator was slightly above the pump, even though the pipes are going down the bottom here and stuff like that, that's still okay. But if you had the whole radiator below the pump, then you'd get that gurgling sound. That's just physics. So yeah, so you can do it like this if you wanted to on the front of a case. You could also do it like this at the front of a case. As long as the pump is above the top of the radiator, then the pocket of air will be stuck in the radiator, not the pump. So that's the rationale, the basic rationale with liquid coolers and stuff like that. That's the rationale you got to follow when you fit one and stuff. You don't want to. There's been a lot of cases. There's been a lot of situations where the manufacturers of cases have actually shown CPU like AIOs installed with the radiator on the bottom, like incorrectly configured, and so then people see that and they go, "Oh, that's legitimate. That's how I'm going to install mine. I like it down there. It looks good," or something, or whatever arbitrary reason they have. But yeah, basically, you'd see that sort of stuff all the time, and then they go, "Oh, why is my cooler making this strange sound?" And it's like, yeah, okay, well, that's because of that. Let's change back to my regular piece here. Oh. Yep, just get rid of it.
You don't need that.
No. It's just a bolt, who cares? So what we do here with our fans, we just got to make sure that based on how we're orientating the radiator in the case, that the cables are going to be to the back and concealed. You don't want them on the front. So this is one of those things. It's like none of this is like, this isn't rocket science or anything like that, but there's a lot of little granular details. It's very easy for this to, you can watch me do this and go, "Oh, Tim built that rig in like 2 hours. Oh yeah, sweet, I'll do this at home." This could easily turn into like 6 hours. If you did everything and you followed the way that I've done everything in this video, that would be like the best. You know, you're not gonna. It probably won't take you 6 hours, but you'd probably want to have like something that's basically the same as this to build.
You want to have like,
so you could follow the same steps.
Like all your products and how they're going to sit in the PC. Like look at the PC itself before you go and.
Like when I go around the motherboard and I point out what the motherboard's got, that's not just for you guys. It's also
for Tim.
It's also for me. I got to get my head around what this is going to look like in the case, where I'm going to run cables, where I'm going to route things. I'm thinking about all that. I'm looking at how many fan headers I've got. I've got 5 on this board, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to need 6. Oh no, we've got a fan controller on the AIO here, so that's good. We don't need any extra cables to wire this up. We just have those 3 front fans and the CPU pump and the 4th one on the back, and we've got 5 fan headers on the board, so this is just going to be perfect. Oh, got a couple more. Yeah, probably screwing in bolts like this is probably like the boringest part of the whole process. If Corsair made a model that like had the fans like pre-installed in like what would be a common orientation, like the orientation that we're doing today, yeah, I think they'd make some money. Do you want to check those YouTube comments, see if anyone is actually commenting there? Because we don't want to forget about them. Nah, all good.
We still got viewers, so.
That's all right. People don't have to comment. People don't have to interact.
No. There's no pressure. Stupid cat. Scare yourself.
Alrighty. Good old Corsair. So Corsair make this a really, really easy process. This is not going to be the same for every cooler that you install. So we just got this bracket here, and we just get these into position. And I pulled off some adhesive here. I'll show you here. So all we have to do is just line up these 4 bolts, these 4 holes, and then that will just stick down. So this is an example of a cooler that's relatively easy to mount, like after the fact when you've got the board in the case, because it has this as adhesive, and these metal screws just fit through those holes really, really snug. So it just sort of sits like that.
Jesse says, I'm just watching you board. There's no way I'd have a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, well, like I said, it's one of those things
Tim
that
makes it look easy.
it's when you do something, like hundreds of times, it becomes yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm doing this now.
But hey, I'm gonna be running Tim's PC in a full-time capacity really, really soon.
Yeah.
At the moment, I have another job, but I have actually tendered my resignation.
Just for you guys.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this a crack full time. So that's making YouTube videos, PC content, and obviously continuing the live build. Yeah. This is the priority. What we're doing now. And then I'm going to focus.
Really like what Tim's doing, so
yeah, people like what I'm doing, so I'm happy to.
Really like to help more people.
Yeah.
Get awesome PCs.
People say I explain things well, and that I should be a teacher or something like that. I can't see myself ever teaching kids.
You're a really good tech communicator.
Yeah. Well, I've always tried to do my part. Oh, do I need these O-rings? Yeah, I do. Yeah, see, I nearly made a mistake there. It's not making a mistake that's a problem. It's realizing that you've actually made a mistake.
Jesse says congratulations.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. So
it's a big step. We are in a house and
hang on.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we got a mortgage and stuff like that. So it is a big thing to do. So I stepped away from no, they don't go on there. That's not right. They are for they're for the back of a Ryzen. Anyway.
Thanks to all you guys.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for the support of everyone here and all that. Everyone seems to like what I'm doing, so I'll keep doing it.
Hopefully hopefully we can sort out some sort of merch, like mouse pads.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be very cool indeed.
And stuff. I shall look into this.
So some of you might notice that I didn't put any thermal paste down. It's because on this particular CPU cooler, it comes pre-applied thermal paste. And Nick will be happy to know that on this cooler, there is no plastic. There's no plastic. It comes with this plastic cap over it because it's got pre-applied thermal paste.
Check it out. Actually,
And so I'm just sort of wiggling it around here now. I'm just making sure that the CPU gets a good coverage of thermal paste and there's not like a pocket of air under there when we tighten it down, which can lead to like a bubble where there's like not much thermal compound on there. And so if I do it like this,
you're wiggling the table everywhere.
yeah, no, that's fine. I'd rather, yeah.
Sorry, I've turned the PC off at the moment looking for my USB cable.
Ah. Oh.
You right? What's wrong?
Something's stuck in my bolt. Anyway. Yeah.
Nick says, I've traced the top header all the way down to the motherboard. Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. Am I retarded?
Do you definitely have USB 2 on the front? Is it, or do you just have USB 3? And is it just a USB 3 cable that's not plugged in? I don't know. I can't.
Take some photos and post it.
Yeah, that's all I can really advise. Just take some photos and give it a post. Alrighty. So all these cables here. See, I've kind of, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. I've got all the cables here. They're sort of all running together in the same direction. All out there, and this is how it'll be orientated inside our case. Yeah, so we've done a bit of the hard work there. That's all out of the way now. So let's get into it. But like I said, it's relatively simple from here. What we've done there is a lot of actually the kind of hard stuff, because we've got these 3 RGB fans in the case pre-installed. So all I got to do is screw this one fan on here, put it in our power supply, hook up some RGB cables, wire up the motherboard, and we're done. I might take the back panel off here while I'm at it.
Do that.
To the back of this case, plenty of room there for cable management. It's even got these Velcro strips.
Yeah, nice. As long as it looks epic, I'll be happy. Dude,
Yeah.
It'll look fucking sweet. I'm actually kind of pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, this will be a good one.
Oh yeah. I was like, does this graphics card have any like RGB on it? Yes, it has a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's
Just a little bit.
a good card. The Tough Gaming.
Yeah, it's pretty like, I don't know, military looking in a way. In
Yeah,
a
but
black
it's-
fashion, but it's still like clean looking. I don't know how to
People
explain it
people
properly.
like it. People like it because it gives you similar performance to the ROG Strix version, but it's a lot cheaper. Well, not a lot cheaper. It's like, you know,
It has
like
oh,
$80
it's
cheaper.
heavy. It has RGB stripping across top. Oh jeez, I'm dropping.
Yeah.
These things are fucking heavy.
Yeah, it's like they weigh like
It's
1.5
1.5
kilos.
This one's probably. Oh, this one's nearly 2. It's probably. I work in Delhi. I really want to weigh it.
You got a bit of packaging on it.
Like, yeah, including the packaging at the moment, it's probably 1.75,
Yeah, that sounds
kilos.
about right.
maybe 1.8.
Alrighty. Get our exhaust fan installed. We'll grab our power supply now. So I like to keep as much packaging as I can to reuse where possible. Because quite a bit of waste gets generated from building PCs, so I try to do my bit. Alrighty. So you can see here you got a few more power cables on this one compared to the last one that we installed,
Why is that?
because we've got a 750 watt here
Oh,
and the other one was a 550. Yeah.
The answers.
And now we'll put this one face down.
The Wallace's 3080 feels.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes, a while got the last 3080 PC that I built.
I really hope it's going
He had a-
okay for you.
He had a few like dramas like at first, just little things. But we got through
I
it.
always feel anxious when a customer's having
It
problems.
is,
And I'm
but-
like, oh no!
But we do our best to help. Oh. Am I out of power supply bolts?
Bum, bum, bum. I'm sure you've got more though.
Oh yeah, I've got them here. I'm just too lazy to take them out of the packet. I've got this big tray of screws, so
Yeah, I know. I'd rather you go through all that.
yeah, I try to use as much as I can, because if not, it just keeps building up, and then it starts to overflow, and then I've got to sit there for like half
Then
an
you
hour.
got baggies of screws everywhere.
Yeah. No, but the baggies of screws are good because it's like the screw set. And I can just grab it and I know that
Nice.
everything's there.
Wall says, I'm having a great time with PC. Thank you so much for working around the clock.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm glad you're happy.
We got there in the end. A while was like, I I was driving around like Brisbane picking up parts like in the afternoon, and basically a while's calling me, and he's like, I'm having this weird issue with the BIOS not showing up, and I'm like, what? That doesn't sound right. And I'm driving, and I'm trying to like give him support and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, I've like done a reinstall. I've like reloaded Windows on there and got rid of all the installed apps. And he's like, it's still happening. I got him to clear CMOS on the clear CMOS header on the motherboard, and it was still happening. And I'm like, dude, this isn't right. I'm like, it's got to be something simple. I'm like, try plugging it into another HDMI slot, because I bet that the graphics card's treating the one that you've got it in plugged into as monitor 2, and it will never show the BIOS screen on monitor 2. And sure enough, yeah, that was it. And there was also, he's got a side-mounted graphics card, and when he first got it, we had a graphics card error just in shipping. Just the vibrations had caused like, it's just a bit of a bad seat in the PCI connection it was on the riser cable, I'm pretty sure. We had to reseat that. But that's the joys with the RAM and the graphics card, is that potentially it's generally a pretty low risk, but potentially with the vibrations in shipping, even though it's all connected and I've installed it all nicely here, the vibrations can just cause like one little connector to not quite be getting a good connection to the pad that it's touching. And if that happens, you'll get that error where the device won't work, either the RAM, the graphics card, or whatever. And like I said, it's just like old console games. You'd like plug one in, you'd turn it on, it wouldn't turn on, it wouldn't do anything. You turn it off, pull it out, you usually blow in it thinking that would do something.
'Cause it does!
And then you put it back in and you turn it on and it would work. It's just because you've pulled it out and reseated the cartridge,
Yeah.
that you've reconnected all those pins, and now you've got a good connection there.
Little gold bits.
Yeah, all those little gold bits, yep, they all line up. There's like little pins that are in the console, and those little pads on the chip that they touch. It's like the little pads on the RAM and stuff. It's not really that different.
Well, since yeah, that was hectic.
Yeah, a while's like, oh no, my fucking computer's broken. He's like, oh, yeah. It's stressful. It's stressful, and I appreciate it. That's why I was trying to stay with you while I was doing everything else. Alrighty, so we got one of these hard drive trays down here. So this will have some of the accessories that come with our case. There'll be some zip ties and bolts and bits and pieces there, and a nice cardboard box. There's also a bit of anti-static foam under here. I'm not sure why they put that there. Seems a bit redundant, but
They didn't put that in mine,
yeah, they did.
did they?
Yep, I pulled it out. I think you were stuffing around with it, and I saw it there, and I was like, I'll pull that out.
Oh.
Alright, so these are okay. We need pretty much everything except Molex. So let's put it in the top tray. Let's install our hard drive. So we're not gonna connect this right up yet, because I always install these last. There we go. So this is a toolless mounting tray. So all I had to do was just clip the drive in there, and then it just slots into this little holder. Once again, no tools, it just clips in place like that.
Where's it go?
Just under there. Let's see, it's just slotted in there in the top slot. I put it in the top slot because I like to stash excess cables in the hard drive tray in a lot of builds. So I put the drive we're using in the top, and then I leave the bottom free, and that's where I put the excess cables when I do the cable management. So I've got everything hooked up in here, so let's turn our attention now to the case and the motherboard. So this will be a case of mounting our cooler and our motherboard now. So when we mount a motherboard, the first thing you want to check is the offsets that are in the case. You want to make sure that that they're all in the correct space and that you don't have like a metal screw touching something.
Tim knows this case like the back of his hand almost now.
Well, not so much that. I have built a few in this case, but the reason why I'm just putting it straight in is because I know in this case that this has got a standard ATX configuration, and that our holes are all in the standard ATX configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to check anything here really. I just know that everything's as it should be basically. And so with these, you just got 9 screws on these ATX motherboards. Oh, that's the wrong size. And hit this middle one in. Sometimes when you mount a motherboard, it's just a little bit awkward to get the first bolt in place, and so generally if you're finding it a little bit hard to get everything lined up, if you get the middle bolt in the middle of the motherboard in place. Actually, what's happened? No, that's not. Ah, that's what's going on. See, there's a cable there. It's getting in the way. That's why it's not wanting to mount correctly, because it's not sitting in there correctly.
Excellent.
That was my keyboard. I'd probably be done if I wasn't picking through these screws, but I'm like determined to use them up.
It's getting less and less.
Slowly. And then we'll go clean up. I'll go clean up the floor with a magnet.
You'll find like 50 more screws.
Yeah. You know it'll happen. Although I'm dropping less on the floor now I've got a big table.
Huh?
I'm dropping less on the floor now that I've got a bigger table. And the lucky last. There we go. Okay, so before we mount the cooler, we're going to feed all these cables out to the back, plus the cables for the actual cooler block. Feed them down here.
Nick says, I feel like having the tempered glass of my PC is amazing. The airflow is freaking amazing.
With the glass panel off.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, like that is annoying that it's not staying where I want it to be. That's always been the old school solution. Like your PC's overheating and stuff like that, you want it to run cooler, you just used to take the panel off it.
Yeah, we used to run a tiny soup pan or something against it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Nick says, I sent you photos of the colonies currently connected. You will get to them when you're done with your stream though. Yes, we'll look at them later. I'll definitely remind him to look at this. Yes.
Alrighty. Once you get those first 2 screws in, it's nice and easy. What's up?
Oh, I was just listening to the plane coming in. He was coming in hot.
Oh, was he? That's like me when I play Microsoft Flight Simulator. I just fly around and it just says, overspeed, overspeed, overspeed,
I don't think
overspeed.
he would have had overspeed coming on in his thing,
No.
if that even happens, but he was coming in a bit hot there, I could tell.
No,
Just
I,
by the speed of the engines. We get so many planes flying over us.
yeah, well, we're
We're
just,
under the flight
we're just
path
across the
Brisbane
river.
Airport, so you know. Nick says having the glass off though, it's like it's absolutely to die for. Feels like I went and bought a new AC.
Oh, sweet, this is the last bolt.
Yay!
I love the last bolt. Oh, and it's really easy to screw in. As you can see, there was
That's 'cause all
a
the
varying
others-
level of difficulty to screw some of those screws in. This one was really hard. That one was really easy. That one's easy, I think. That one was also pretty easy.
Still took you forever.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So now we're ready for the fun stuff. Okay, let's sort out this mess as quickly and efficiently as possible. Okay, so that's our front panels. You can go over there. We've got our fans. Okay, got them together. These RGBs can just run up there. What do we got going on here? Power these.
Very charming.
Oh no. Alright. So we've got these 3 Corsair RGB cables to hook up. Just untangle these wires. That's half the thing with cable management, is it's just untangling wires. I'm starting with all the small little wires like the RGB. Try to do it so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay.
Tim,
Yo.
Nick says, if anyone ever tells you cable management takes 3 hours, don't believe them.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No.
Maybe like absolute, like basically cable management that's an art. Like, it's basically art. That's kind of like, oh yeah, alright. So all these guys, I can just... Oh no, hang on, I've got... Need that. Where will I run that? I'm going to run that. And someone was asking how much I charge for builds and stuff, and I was like, yeah, so RGB and all that costs extra. This is why, because I got to do all this kind of stuff. If we don't have RGB, it's easy. So the ATX power. CPU power. Graphics card, we will grab 1 and 2. We will also grab 1 SATA. Oh, that's Molex. Don't grab that. Okay. Alright, so these cables here we don't need. Not for this build anyway. Just stretch them all out like that. Another zip tie. Sweet as. And these can be stashed away down there. Yeah.
It says my glass and my PC is officially fingerprint free. I hate smudges on it.
Yeah, that's a fun one to deal with.
cleaner and it's towel and it's
Yeah.
That's what I usually do. I can't stand finger marks on glass.
Yeah, no, that does annoy you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So chaos is starting to become a little bit more organised. So I'm going to take my SATA line. I'm going to start by plugging in our hard drive. And then to the next one, I'll plug in the Corsair RGB controller. And for our next one, I'll plug in the liquid cooler pump. How will I run this? Actually, connect on these two. Okay, so we've got all our SATA hooked up now. So we got some fan cables, we've got some USB cables. What have we got here? We've got our graphics card, our CPU, and this back fan. We can feed these here. And because this isn't a Z490, I'm actually going to be able to plug this stuff in without too much dramas.
What's good, bro?
Hey Dominic. Yeah man, just building Jesse's computer here, this sick 3080 rig.
How's the building going?
Yeah, good. Coming along. Spent a bit of time talking tonight, so oh shit. What's that way? There we go. go. Okay, so now we've got all of these other connections here. So one thing that won't be in use, because our motherboard doesn't actually have the right header for it, is our USB-C front panel there. It's just unfortunate that this board doesn't have the USB-C header. Not all motherboards have it, but yeah, I would have thought that this board would actually have that particular header on it, but it doesn't. It's not a big deal because you do have USB-C connectivity on the back there. You can also, if you wanted use of it, you could buy an adapter for this, so it'll plug into either the USB 2 or the USB 3 header. But it will run at, like if you plugged into the USB 2, it's going to run at USB 2 speeds. It'll just have a Type C interface up there. So I mean that's an optional one. So I'm just gonna put that down here and out of the way. And so basically now, these are fan cables. We've just got these three to worry about. And so for these ones here, we're going to use this handy little clip. These are our front panel connections, so like the power button and the reset switch and all that. That just clips in like that. The power LED. And we've got our power switch. It's our final one. And so if we wanted to plug in our diagnostic speaker, we could put that in there. And there's also a power LED one for motherboards with a 3-pin configuration. That's easily hard modded anyway.
Nick says, did I miss watching the 3080 installed?
No, the 3080 hasn't been installed yet. It's always the last thing that we do, is install the graphics card. And so we've got a couple of USB, oh no, no, we don't have USB 2 on the front, so we've just got our front panel audio here. Come down here. Okay, that's in nicely. Alrighty. So let's do these front fans. I want to. Get out of the way. Oh, come on, man.
Looks like you're really struggling with that one.
Yeah, I am, because there's like cables in the way. No, got it.
Okay. So, can I help?
I wish. Yeah. What's up? Alrighty. Got pretty much everything all kind of hooked up now. So I'm going to start. Tying back these cables. Who is it?
John.
Hey John, how you going? Good to have you with us. Just doing this 3080 build tonight. Alrighty. So now everything is all hooked up, wired in. It's not perfect cable management, but we've got everything tied away. That will fit on. That'll fit on nicely there. And we just have these other cables to route now. Now we're just left with our graphics card power cables. So you know what that means? It means it's time to install our graphics card. What did you do with it? Hiding it from me. I think she wants to put it in her PC.
No, it's not wide enough.
It's not wide enough.
I have a white PC. It's got to be silver or white.
Da, 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 da. Can't get these very easily these days. Oh, it's a brick. It is a brick.
Jesse wants to know what spec should I set as minimum requirements when I purchase A screens for a build like this, so I don't bottleneck what I have.
Well, it depends. I mean, it really depends what resolution that you wanna run most of your games in and stuff like that. How you're going to be playing, as to what screen would be best for you. I mean, obviously, you don't want to spend so much on a screen that you've got a screen that your hardware can't make use of. You do want the screen to slightly bottleneck your graphics card, and when I say slightly bottleneck your graphics card, I mean like the screen should be able to do about 90+% of what the graphics card can output, because you're going to get frame dips and stuff like that. Ideally, you want to be able to buy a monitor and be able to run it at like a consistent whatever the refresh rate of that monitor is. And so with a 3080, you can sort of buy whatever screen you want to buy. It's not going to make a great deal of difference for you. The main thing is just a big bit of plastic. Yes. So it's pretty nerdy, but the configuration of some of this stuff on the back there, on the back of where the actual GPU is, this is part of the reason why people flocked to this card. They believed that this configuration was superior to some of the other ones.
What specs should you set as minimum?
What specs should you set it as the minimum requirements for a monitor, or for the graphics card? Yeah, well, like I said, it depends on what game you want to play, what resolution that you want to play at, and stuff like that. You'd have to look up the card, this card, and the CPU that you're running, and the game and the resolution that you want to play, and see what the benchmarks are for that. Probably my best advice to you with regards to choosing a monitor is get this home, fire it up, and see what your favorite games run at, and what frames a second it runs at, and at what on what settings, and blah 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 blah. You can work all that out yourself. And then yeah, basically, if you're finding that you can run this game at this resolution, it's probably a case of going, oh yep, no worries, well I'm going to buy a screen that's a similar resolution to what I find, because like every game's going to be a little bit different in how it runs. Every graphics card and CPU combination is going to be a little bit different as well. So it's important to yeah, just work all that kind of stuff out. Like I can give you general advice like this, but in terms of like the specifics with different games and stuff, like if I play the game a lot, personally, I might be able to give you some advice as to what frame rates to expect, but yeah, for games I don't play all the time, and for hardware that I don't run, it's going to be pretty hard for me to answer those questions. That's why I will typically talk to people, and I'll say, hey, well, if you want to see how this PC is going to run, this configuration I've sent you, look up the benchmarks on YouTube for the game that you want to play. And basically once you do that, you'll get a really good understanding of what your favorite game is going to run like on the hardware that you're going to buy. And that's always a good thing to do. Look at that tank card. Takes up 3 graphic card slots worth of space in the case. So it only takes up 2 slots at the back, but the rest of the card takes up another slot. What's the Mao want? Pats. Yeah, he's a bit of an attention whore, eh?
He's been fed twice. And he's just looking at me going, no.
Are you serious?
It is. Dominic wants to know, when's that can of junk, bro?
Ah! This is the best shit ever. Cotties in a can. Sparkling, pre-mixed, like, green cotties.
It tastes like Cotty's lime.
Yeah, so Cotty's lime cooler taste that's, like, really unique. It's that, but in, like, a soft drink. Yeah, Coles and
So
Woolies
good.
and stuff. There we go, alrighty. So now all we've got left to do now is just to plug up our graphics card with some power.
Yeah, you got it. Next time you go to Coles or Woolies, check out the drinks aisle, 10-pack cans.
Yeah, they're with the cordials, not with the other soft drinks.
No, it's with cordial. Yeah, man, it's pretty much like lime cordial, but with soft drink in it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Just a bit of everything, a lot of AAA titles, a lot of random games in between. I'll play anything. I've just been playing Skater XL. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. On the Sony's this new console's dropped.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, well, you'll get, depending on the game you're playing, the frame rate will be pretty different in different games. Like if you play something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider or Cyberpunk or something like that, you're gonna get like a pretty low frame rate. Same with like Red Dead Redemption and stuff like that. Even with the 3080, you're only gonna get like 60 frames a second at 4K on maximum settings and stuff like that. But the thing is, for games like that, that's perfectly fine, because they're not, you don't get much of a benefit to higher frames a second in just ordinary role-playing games. Usually if a role-playing game's running 60 frames a second or more, that's pretty good in general, depending on the title. But like, you can play something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right? You can play that, you can run that at like 4K and you'll get probably about anywhere between 90 and 120 frames a second. And that's a pretty demanding game. It's one of those ones to, well, historically you'd use to sort of put your hardware through its paces. But yeah, the 3080 makes a bit of a mockery of that game. Alright, so I'm going to fix up those cables inside the case a little bit later, because right now it's getting a bit late. Yeah, I know. It's going to be a late one. But we are now at that point where we can plug everything in and see if it's all good. What?
Never mind.
Alright, so we'll just plug our Wi-Fi antenna here, because this board has onboard Wi-Fi. And so this is just magnetic, so I can just sit anywhere on the case. Okay. Moment of truth time is coming up. So I'm going to take off my anti-static strap now. Get some power going on. Did you see that? It's alive. What's happened to that back fan? What we got there? We're still posting. There we go. I'm just turning this off quickly because I want to, this back fan's not spinning. Alright. Alrighty. So we are looking in business. Don't mind some of these cables. I will be tidying them up for Jesse before I ship this out. What I'm going to do, because the lights don't really do the RGB much justice. Like cutting off half the screen there. There we go. Alrighty. So we'll get this all sorted really quickly.
Just listening, cannot want to have them. Long touch not too flashy.
You can what we can do if you want more of an RGB lighting effect, if you saw my earlier video, we can actually add like an RGB strip that will add more light in the case, and it will like be more illuminated.
Like one maybe down along the bottom, like towards that way.
Yeah. And then we position one up the back somewhere as well. So I mean, we could add a couple of them. Like I said, they can get a pack of two little strips there that'll add a lot more light to the build. You can do that for like $25. So if you want to do that, just give me the extra 25 and I'll pick them up tomorrow. Okay, sorry about that. I was just checking some stuff back there. Not seeing an RGB light on the CPU cool block, so that would be something to find out what's going on with that. But all the other RGB is working out pretty good. Yeah, I think you're right, Jesse. Like I quite like the look of this, and obviously like you can change the fan light sequence and stuff. You can have it set up so it's you know, all the one color and stuff like that, and that's generally a pretty good look in this case, in my opinion. We've been live here 2 hours 20 minutes. there's one thing I can do now. Alrighty, so we've got our last component hooked up there. Let's get some 5 gigahertz internet. Let's clean up this start menu. I hate all that crap. So I'll get one of my benchmark applications just straight from Microsoft Store. Also start our Windows updates. Okay, so it's all coming along there. Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Some custom icons. So we've put these custom icons down just to help organise the desktop.
Jesse says I'm not happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
This lights, it's a thing.
Yeah, I responded to that.
Oh, okay, sorry, he's
No,
downstairs.
that's alright. Alright, sweet. Let's get these apps installed. Everything else is installing in the background. Do you play Fortnite, Jesse? that's fine. I'm just like installing Steam here for you and stuff. If you played Fortnite, I'd install Epic Games Launcher for you. I need XTU. Okay, so we got now. Alright, so we'll just get our drivers from Aora. Just downloading App Center. Windows has a built-in WinZip now, so you don't need to download WinZip or WinRAR or any of that. Okay. App Center launched. Over here to not install. And we can go ahead and install all this stuff. These are all the things that would come with your motherboard, like on the CD, but we don't use CDs anymore. So we just download it all from the internet, basically. And utilities like this App Center enable you just to get it all at once without clicking on a million things and installing a million things. Yeah, so then all you got to do, if it's game related, you just drag it into games, and any other like installed apps, just drag them into applications. So every time you install something new, it'll usually make a new icon on your desktop. And so if it's a gaming computer, you're either going to have like general applications or games usually. Generally don't use your documents folder too often on a gaming computer, but you can always add a new folder for documents and stuff and have it right there and keep your desktop a bit more organized. Or you could just delete these custom folders and not even use them, it doesn't matter. I just put them there because that's what I do on my computer to keep everything organized, so I figure yeah, everyone else could probably benefit from that. I see a lot of untidy desktops, and I'm like, how do you find anything? Get it if it's always like that, you know exactly where to look on the screen, but oh, there's one more thing we need. Of course, our IQ software. Okay, it's all updated. Okay, that's all done. See if I Are you serious? Yeah, sounds good, man. I can definitely include that for you. It's no problem at all. Okay. So it's got pretty much everything all updated now. So yeah, we'll restart it. We'll get the hard drive set up, and yeah, we'll be ready to start stress testing it. second, I'm going to the toilet. Alrighty, sorry about that. So let's set up our hard drive. As we can see other things there, but we can't see our hard drive. So I'm going to remove those other two, because that's really all we can see there. So we've got that 2 terabyte drive. So we click up here when we're in this PC and we click on computer, and we go to manage, and we just click down here to disk management. And disk management's already noticed that there's a new disk connected, disk 0. We're going to click OK. And now we can see disk 0 is in there, but it's got this black bar at the top and it says unallocated. So we have to partition it. So we're going to open this up. We're going to create a new partition. We're going to call it drive D. We're going to call it storage drive. And let's just do a quick format. And there it is. There's your D drive. Okay. Actually, before I close it up, I'll just do some preliminaries. stress. Okay, it's fine, it's looking good. Our graphic card fans are amped on there now. They're doing a really good job at the fault curve. Cool, cool. So now I guess, so I'll do the stress test. I'll do the stress test on it tomorrow because it's getting a bit late now. Let's just do some quick benchmarks so Jesse can have a quick look at how his computer's going. So this one is going to test the SSD read and write speeds. And we can also test what our Wi-Fi connection's like to the internet. What sort of speed are we getting over Wi-Fi? So decent speed there over Wi-Fi. So we can see there our SSD's charging along. 7 gigabytes a second, 8 gigabytes a second, 4. Upload's a bit slow there, that's because I'm streaming, so you get that. And our Wi-Fi is working fine, our SSD is running at good speeds there. I'll do the writes now. Okay, so let's So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up some overlays so you can see things like frames per second. So now if we go into superposition, so let's do an 8K, test. How do we run at 8K? Oh. Really? So just under RAM there, that number that you're seeing, that's how many frames a second it's running at 8K. This is 8K. Yeah, it goes all right for 8K, considering, you know, 8K is more than twice like the surface area of 4K. So yeah, 6131. So you can download Superposition Benchmark yourself and run this on your own PC, and then you can sort of see where you sit compared to a 3080 at the same test. And so this was the 8K optimized benchmark. Just a sec, people. My wife has lost her phone. Yeah, so we can go back.
I'm talking. I've seen it. Right there. Right there. You're really good at that, eh?
So I'm going to stop this one. Yeah. And we'll just run, we're going to run one and we're going to do it on low settings. We're going to do a different one. Yep, so low settings here. Let's give it a go. So this is low settings on DirectX 11 1080p. And as you can see here, like what it's rendering is not exactly it's not exactly like easy stuff to render. But see frame rates like this benchmark is pretty impressive. Look at those low CPU and graphics card things. We do have the case open here, so it's not quite stressful. Yeah, 10,000 frames a second. What? Oh God. Alrighty. So our SSD speeds. Everything's all good. How's our temps been? Yeah, not too bad. Let's do a quick Cinebench render before we sign off tonight. Like I said, I'll be rolling this one into tomorrow to do the stress test. Like I said, that's the real boring stuff, because I don't even sit here. I just check it periodically to make sure it's not overheating or doing anything bad. But I just let it run for a while, and once I'm confident that it's going to work. Did I open up the wrong app? Yeah, I did. I'm getting tired. I gotta go to bed. go. So what it's doing now is it's basically doing like a video render, essentially. But it's doing it in a really hard way. And she'll get a bit toasty for Cinebench. Oh, she's calmed down a little bit now. Booster speeds drop down. Yeah, no major problems there. Yeah, superposition's good because you can run the 4K and 8K optimized benchmarks even if you don't have a 4K or 8K monitor, and you don't have to do any like screen resolution voodoo to make it happen. As you can see, it's boosting up to 5.2 on 2 of the cores. That's how it runs at stock. Yeah, it's just making a mockery of this. Nah, Nick, you won't. And you'll be able to see all the temperature statistics and stuff like that while it's running. Even if you don't have Reaper Tuner working, you can still see it in the top right hand corner of the screen. It will have all the statistics there. I just use Reaper Tuner because it's too hard for other people to see what the small writing says there. Yeah, it's done this so many times and it's not even halfway through. So yeah, we're going to leave it there tonight. So what I do is I run that and I run one of those benchmarks in the background as well. So the graphics card's getting a workout while the CPU's getting a workout, and we have the case closed up and the fans turn to maximum and we let it run for a while. It's not a realistic workload because you're never going to be like running a game while you're trying to render a video. So that's what we're kind of doing with the stress test, and then if it holds up and passes that, then I know that pretty much anything you do to it, it's not going to cause it to overheat. It's going to be solid. So, well, anyway, I'm going to leave it here for tonight, and I'll post an update and some photos, and I'll let everyone know how the stress test went. But other than that, I'll see you in tomorrow's video where we've got a 3070 for tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, and as always, I will see you in the next video.